Did you know that stories are 22 times more memorable than facts alone? That's right. Stories stick with us in a way dry data never can. Yet, becoming a great storyteller is a skill many overlook. Have you ever wondered why some stories captivate you while others bore you to tears? It's not just about having a good plot. It's about how you tell it. Research shows that the human brain responds to well-told stories the same way it reacts to real-life experiences. Amazing, isn't it? In this video, we'll uncover the secrets of weaving deep messages into your narratives. You'll learn expert tips to turn your tales into unforgettable experiences. From discovering your personal myths to mastering the art of emotional craftsmanship, we've got you covered. We'll dive into the fascinating world of building settings that go beyond the mundane. You'll discover how to craft characters that transform from ordinary to extraordinary. Ever wondered how to weave subtle yet powerful themes into your stories? We'll show you how. And what about pacing and timing? We've got strategies to keep your audience hooked from start to finish. Imagine having the skills to make your stories flow like a captivating symphony. Ready to become a master storyteller? Let's get started and transform the way you tell stories forever. Chapter 1: Unearth your personal myth. To become a great storyteller, you must start with your own life. Think about moments that changed you. These stories are your personal myths, the foundation of compelling narratives. Begin by reflecting on pivotal experiences. It could be a childhood memory, a major life event, or even a seemingly small moment that had a big impact. According to Joseph Campbell, everyone has a hero's journey. Find yours. A great example is J.K. Rowling, who drew on her own struggles and dreams to create the Harry Potter series. She tapped into her personal myths to build a world millions love. You can do this too. Use journals to recall details. Write about how you felt, what you saw, and what you learned. This helps you connect with your story's core emotions. Don't worry if the event seems small. What's important is the emotion and lesson behind it. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book, Outliers, talks about how small moments can lead to great stories. Once you have your story, think about its message. What did you learn? How can others relate? Your personal myth should offer a universal truth. To illustrate, look at how Oprah Winfrey shares her life story. She speaks about her struggles and successes, making her messages powerful and relatable. Practice telling your story out loud. Notice how it sounds and feels. Are there parts that drag or feel unclear? Revise them. Remember, storytelling is like sculpting. Start with a rough idea and keep refining it. Each detail should add depth and clarity. Consider this quote from Maya Angelou: "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." Sharing your story can be cathartic and powerful. Keep your language simple and direct. Avoid jargon and complex sentences. This makes your story more accessible and engaging. Use metaphors and analogies to make abstract ideas concrete. For example, if your story is about overcoming fear, compare it to climbing a mountain. Storytelling also involves listening. Share your story with friends or family and get their feedback. They can offer new perspectives and insights. Incorporate sensory details. Describe what you saw, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched. This makes your story vivid and immersive. Remember, every great story has a beginning, middle, and end. Structure your narrative so it flows naturally. Start with a hook. Grab your audience's attention with a surprising fact, a question, or an intriguing statement. Build up to the climax, where the main event or turning point occurs. This is the heart of your story. Chapter 2: The Art of Emotional Craftsmanship. Emotions are the heartbeat of storytelling. They make your audience feel connected and invested. Mastering this art can transform your stories from good to unforgettable. Start by identifying the core emotion of your story. Is it joy, sadness, fear, or something else? This will guide how you craft your narrative. Use sensory details to evoke emotions. Describe a scene in a way that makes your audience feel like they're there. For example, instead of saying, "It was a sunny day," say, "The warm sun kissed my skin as birds sang in the clear blue sky." Balance positive and negative emotions. A good story has a mix of both. This creates a dynamic and engaging narrative. Pixar movies are great examples of this balance. Show, don't tell. Instead of saying, "She was scared," describe her actions. her hands trembled, and her breath quickened. Use body language and facial expressions to convey emotions. This makes your characters more relatable and real. Dialogue is another powerful tool. It reveals character emotions and motivations. Think of how Aaron Sorkin's scripts are filled with sharp, revealing dialogue. Keep your language simple and direct. Complex words can dilute the emotional impact. Use metaphors and analogies to create emotional connections. For example, comparing a difficult journey to a stormy sea can evoke feelings of struggle and perseverance. Vary your sentence length and structure. Short sentences can create tension, while longer ones can build a sense of calm. Don't shy away from vulnerability. Showing your characters' weaknesses makes them more human and relatable. Consider this quote from Brené Brown: "Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change." Embrace it in your storytelling. Use pacing to control the emotional flow of your story. Slow down during emotional moments and speed up during action scenes. Repetition can emphasize key emotions or ideas. Just don't overdo it. Create contrasts to highlight emotions. For example, a moment of peace can make a subsequent conflict more intense. Music and sound effects can also enhance the emotional impact of your story if you're telling it through video or audio. End your story on an emotional note. Whether it's happy, sad, or bittersweet, leave your audience with a feeling to remember. Chapter 3: Building Worlds Beyond the Mundane. Creating an engaging world is crucial for storytelling. It draws your audience in and makes them feel part of the story. Start by thinking about the setting's time and place. Is it in the past, present, or future? Is it real or imaginary? Use specific details to bring your world to life. Instead of saying, "They were in a city," describe the bustling streets, the sounds of honking cars, and the smell of street food. J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth is a prime example of detailed world building that feels real. Imagine how your world looks, sounds, and feels. Describe the colors, textures, and sounds. This creates a vivid image in your audience's mind. George R.R. Martin does this well in his Game of Thrones series. Consider the culture and customs of your world. What do people believe in? How do they dress? What are the daily routines? These details add depth and authenticity. Think about the geography of your world. Are there mountains, rivers, or deserts? How do these features affect the story and characters? Use maps if needed. This helps keep track of places and distances. Use metaphors and similes to make descriptions relatable. Compare unfamiliar aspects of your world to known ones. For instance, the castle loomed like a giant's shadow. Show how your world affects your characters. Do they have to deal with harsh weather or rough terrain? This adds challenges and makes the story more engaging. Remember, a well-built world enhances the narrative but shouldn't overshadow the story. The setting should serve the plot and characters, not the other way around. Dialogue can reveal a lot about your world. The way characters speak, their slang, and idioms can reflect their environment and culture. Use contrasts to highlight differences within your world. For example, show the stark difference between a wealthy city and a poor village. Make sure your world has its own rules and logic. Even in fantasy, consistency is key. J.K. Rowling's Hogwarts has its own set of rules, which makes it believable. Think about how history shapes your world. What events have influenced the present? This adds layers and backstory. Use sensory details to make your world immersive. Describe the taste of food, the sound of music, and the feel of the air. Consider technology and magic in your world. How do they work? What are their limits? Clear rules help avoid plot holes. Your world's flora and fauna can add unique elements. Think of Pandora's exotic ecosystem in Avatar. Chapter 4: Character Alchemy, From Ordinary to Extraordinary. Great characters are the heart of any story. They drive the plot and connect with the audience. Start with a basic character profile. Think about their age, appearance, background, and personality. Give your characters clear goals and motivations. What do they want? Why do they want it? This makes their actions and decisions believable. Show character development through actions, not just words. Instead of saying, "He was brave," show him facing his fears. Create multi-dimensional characters. Even villains should have redeeming qualities, and heroes should have flaws. This makes them more relatable. Use dialogue to reveal character traits. How they speak can show their education, mood, and personality. Consider this quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald: "Action is character. What your characters do defines who they are." Show character growth. Characters should change and evolve throughout the story. This keeps the audience invested. Use inner conflict to add depth. Characters should struggle with their beliefs, desires, and fears. Relationships are key to character development. Show how characters interact with others. This reveals different sides of their personality. Give your characters unique voices. Each should have a distinct way of speaking, with their own vocabulary and rhythm. Use backstory to explain why characters are the way they are. Just don't reveal it all at once. Sprinkle it throughout the story. Make sure your characters' actions are consistent with their personality and background. This builds credibility. Consider how the setting affects your characters. A person living in a war zone will behave differently from someone in a peaceful village. Show the impact of major events on your characters. This adds realism and emotional depth. Use physical descriptions sparingly but effectively. Focus on unique features that reveal something about the character. Think about your characters' relationships with the world around them. How do they fit into society? What are their roles? Consider this quote from Stephen King: "The best stories are always about people, not events." Focus on your characters' journeys. Use small details to make characters come alive. Their habits, quirks, and preferences make them unique. Chapter 5: Weaving themes with subtlety and power. Embedding themes into your stories adds depth and meaning. But how do you do it without being obvious? Start by identifying the core themes you want to explore. These are the big ideas or messages you want to convey. Themes often emerge naturally from the story. Don't force them. Let your story guide you. For example, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird tackles themes of racial injustice and moral growth. Use symbols to represent themes. In The Great Gatsby, the green light symbolizes Gatsby's hopes and dreams. Symbols add layers to your story without heavy exposition. Incorporate themes into your characters' journeys. Their struggles and growth can reflect broader themes. Think of Frodo in The Lord of the Rings and the theme of sacrifice. Dialogue is another subtle way to introduce themes. Characters can discuss ideas and beliefs that hint at larger themes. Just keep it natural and avoid preaching. Consider this quote from Ernest Hemingway: "The dignity of movement of an iceberg is due to only 1/8 of it being above water." Most of your theme should be beneath the surface. Use settings to reinforce themes. A bleak, desolate landscape can underline themes of isolation or despair. Settings can be powerful tools for thematic development. Subplots can also highlight themes. They can mirror or contrast with the main plot, adding depth. In Harry Potter, the subplot of house elves complements themes of freedom and prejudice. Pacing is crucial. Don't rush thematic elements. Allow them to unfold naturally. This makes them more impactful. Themes should resonate with the audience's experiences and emotions. They should feel universal yet specific to your story. Think about what themes matter to you and why. Show, don't tell. Instead of stating your theme outright, let the story illustrate it. This engages the audience more effectively. Consider using recurring motifs. These can subtly reinforce your theme throughout the story. In Moby Dick, the white whale is a recurring motif symbolizing obsession. Conflict often brings out themes. How characters handle conflict can reveal deeper meanings. This makes the story more compelling and thought-provoking. Chapter 6: The Rhythm of Storytelling, Pacing and Timing. Good pacing keeps your audience hooked. It's about balancing fast and slow moments in your story. Start with a strong opening to grab attention. An intriguing question or a dramatic scene works well. Use shorter sentences and paragraphs during action scenes. This increases the pace and tension. Think of how Dan Brown writes in The Da Vinci Code. Slow down during emotional or important moments. Longer, descriptive sentences help build atmosphere and depth. This allows your audience to savor the moment. Vary your pacing to keep the story dynamic. Alternating between fast and slow scenes creates rhythm and maintains interest. Imagine a roller coaster with its highs and lows. Dialogue can control pacing too. Rapid exchanges quicken the pace, while thoughtful conversations can slow it down. It's a tool to steer the narrative flow. Consider the overall structure of your story. A well-placed climax and resolution can enhance pacing. Make sure your story builds up to these points effectively. Foreshadowing can create suspense and control pacing. It hints at future events, keeping the audience engaged. Alfred Hitchcock was a master of this technique. Use cliffhangers at the end of chapters. This compels your audience to keep reading. It's a simple yet effective strategy to maintain interest. Flashbacks can add depth and slow the pace. They provide backstory and context, enriching the narrative. Just use them sparingly to avoid confusion. Your character's actions should drive the plot. The decisions and movements influence the story's pace. Keep this in mind as you write.